Cameroon's opposition challenger, Issa Tchiroma Bakary, is claiming an overwhelming election victory against incumbent President Paul Biya, who has been in power for 43 years. Today, a new era begins. Today is a time for change, he says. Official results from the October 12th vote are not expected for another 2 weeks. Here's a report.
Vote counting is underway in Cameroon following Sunday's presidential election, in which incumbent Paul Biya is seeking to extend his 43 years in power. Biya, who at 92 is the world's oldest head of state, is being challenged by 9 candidates. If he wins, it will be his 8th consecutive term in office, with the next election due in 2032. The final result should be known within 15 days of the vote, but opposition leader and former minister Issa Tchiroma Bakary, 76, declared victory in Cameroon's presidential election, calling it the start of a new era. He urged officials to respect the people's choice and calls on the ruling authorities to honor the result.
Today, I speak to you with deep emotion and immense pride. Together, we have made history. During this campaign, I saw a Cameroon that stands tall. I saw women and men, young and old, who faced threats and intimidation, but remained united and determined. The people have made their choice, and that choice must be respected. I call on all institutions, all administrative authorities, and all officials not to become enemies of the people they are meant to serve.
In the run-up to the election, there were complaints from the opposition of attempts to suppress their support. In August, the Constitutional Council barred 71-year-old Maurice Kamto, widely viewed as the main challenger, from taking part. Angry supporters of leading opposition candidate and former Biya LI, Issa Tchiroma Bakary, took to the streets in his stronghold of Garua. They clashed with security forces who fired tear gas after his residence was cordoned off. Most young Cameroonians have known only one president in their lifetime, Paul Biya. Cameroon's first-time voters are torn between change and continuity.
Of course, I'm in favor of change. Very strong about that. I'm in support of a real change in Cameroon, because for so long we have been, I don't know if to say we have been caged in some sort of political egoism that the president does not take into consideration the interest of the people.
My motivation for choosing candidate Paul Biya is simply because I'm 24 years old, and by the time I was born, he was already halfway through his mandate. He's the only president I've ever known. And since I'm not sure that if there is a change in leadership, Cameroon will remain peaceful, I prefer to vote for him to avoid unrest or instability. It's better to stay with someone we know.
Paul Biya has promised Cameroon's electorate the best is still to come, as he seeks his 8th consecutive presidential term on Sunday. The nonagenarian has already been in power since 1982. Another 7-year mandate could see him rule for 50 years until he will be almost 100. He defied widespread calls to step down and has been criticized for only showing up for one rally, spending most of the campaign period on a 10-day private trip to Europe. A backlash over his reliance on an AI-generated campaign video, as his opponents actively wooed voters on the ground, saw him rush north on his return home. In the vote-rich city of Marua, he addressed crowds of his party supporters, reaching out in particular to women and young people, promising to prioritize their plight in his next mandate.
Despite the difficulties of everyday life, despite the false omens, the slanders, the delusions, yes, dear friends, you have remained faithful to the institutions since my accession to the Supreme Magistracy. You have remained rock solid in your commitment to me.
The presidential election comes amid growing concerns about inflation, security challenges, poor social services, and corruption. Youth unemployment has been a particular talking point for most of the candidates running in the election. Nearly 40% of young Cameroonians between the ages of 15 and 35 are unemployed, with 23% of young graduates facing challenges in obtaining formal employment, according to the International Organization for Migration, IOM. Africa Bureau, WION, World is One.